Okay, so to start with, you're going to want to add a wall if you're going to build something. So we're going to make a small little thing, but first let's go, as a practice that you can kind of follow along with, okay? So if you click on wall, let's go back. Click on wall and go to wall architectural right below it. Okay, it has some offerings. The default is usually generic 8 inches, but we're going to go with actually, why don't we look at a couple of these? Let's go with exterior brick on CMU. And let's see what that is. Exterior brick on CMU, what does that mean? Okay, so if you click on Edit Type right here, Type Properties opens up. And by the way, this is where you can make a lot of different changes. Okay, look at the width of this wall, 1 foot 7.5 inches. Pretty clearly not what we're going to be using for our typical construction. Okay, but if you look at this, you can tell what's going on here. Your function is your finish is your brick. You've got an air, 3 inches of air there, plus rigid insulation of 3 inches. Membrane, you've got damp-proof membrane, which is not taking up any space. It's just basically plastic sheeting. Then you've got concrete structure, okay, which is where your CMU comes in. Okay. And then metal fur, and then gypsum is your inside finish. Your finish 2 is gypsum board. So you can see this is quite the wall, okay? But if you ever have a question about a wall before you place it, you can do that. Go to Edit Type and take a look at it, okay? So if we did exterior EIFS on metal stud, what is that exactly? Okay, let's look at it and see. And you can see we've got plywood substrate metal studs. Okay, some of these things can be changed, but typically in walls they don't actually offer a wood stud in here. So you're kind of stuck with your metal studs if you're using that kind of a wall, okay? Foundation walls are foundations. We are going to be using generic 6 inches for everything that we're using, but should you ever want to look at what the wall is, okay, that's where you're going to look, okay? We can look at this, generic 6 inches, not the masonry, but the generic 6 inches. And we can look at that structure and see what that is. And we actually don't have anything here. We're just going to go with it as it is because we're not building this necessarily. But you could change this category over here by clicking to say, what is my structure made of? Do I want a metal stud? Do I want... obviously we don't want plywood necessarily in there. If we had any wood structure, it would be, this is joist, rafter, layer, bad insulation. You could actually include that, but this is really more for a ceiling. I think you could add that though. So if you put that there, you've got a wood structure in the middle, okay? And that's giving it 6 inches. That's showing 0 and 0, although technically we know that's not accurate, but this would actually be 4.5 inches or 5.5 inches with a 1/2 inch and a 1/2 inch, your core boundary. And we're going to just, like I said, we will leave that be. Okay, so you don't have to make that adjustment. I'm just showing you how you might, okay? I'm going to close that. We're going to be using basic wall, generic 6 inches. Okay, now when you're in this command, it's got modify place wall. You look for this little green thing right up here, okay, showing this new tab that hasn't been there before. And this has a lot of different things. What's our ceiling height? Is it unconnected? Or we do want to go up to level 2 or just leave it as unconnected? Okay. Now the one that we're going to be doing for our project will be 24 feet, but we're going to leave this at 20 feet because that is how we typically, that's your typical 8-foot ceiling kind of a situation. Alright, so on this we're going to go with finished face exterior as our location line, and that's just telling us where our line, where we're connecting, and we're going to be connecting to the finished face exterior. So let's say I want a wall right here around in the middle just a little bit that is 20 feet long, pulling to the right. So I have to pull this to the right, make sure it's going straight where it says horizontal, and you don't want it, doing any of these angles or even a slight angle. You want this to just be straight or where it says horizontal, okay? So let's say we're going to make that at 30 feet. So you're going to just type in 30. Revit defaults to feet as opposed to inches So it's completely opposite in that respect from AutoCAD. Keep that in mind. So 30, just 30, enter. And if I want to add inches, I'm going to pull this down and do 22 feet, 5 inches. Let's make it 6. I'm going to type that in, 22 space 6. I don't have to add any foot mark or anything like that. I'm going to type it in, 22 space bar 6, enter. Okay, I'm going to pull this back over here, and there's a couple of ways I can use that extension line to get that, or I can just type in my 30 again, and then I'm going to bring this up and close it up by connecting the endpoint. O-snaps are automatic here. You don't actually set them. Okay, now this is where thin lines come in. You look at this, it's pretty thick. When I click on thin lines, it allows me to see it just a little bit better, which is important for adding an interior line. Walls, I should say. We want the lines for our walls to be thin. Now let's take a look at it from a 3D standpoint. I have 2 full floors of walls here for a 2-story structure. Interesting. Alright, now what if I decide I only want this to be a 1-story structure? Okay, let's do that. Let's select all of this, and we're going to go over here to properties, and where it's got top constraint unconnected, we're going to change a couple of things. Top constraint, hold on, we unselected it, there we go. Okay, we're going to change top constraint to up to level 2, because that's the bottom of level 2, which changes the height automatically, as you can see here. Okay, so now if I go back and look at it in 3D, maybe hard to see this difference, but if I go back and look at it in 3D, you can see it's a bit shorter than our old version. Okay, so now let's add some interior walls. Now we're going to do finish face interior as our measurement, and we're going to go up to level 2 for our height. Okay, so let's draw one that is about 12 feet. Now if you notice, this temporary dimension is connecting over here to the middle of the wall, even though I'm saying finish face interior. It's not actually doing that. So I see this, so I know that if I want a 12-foot wall here, or 12-foot space here, I'm going to have to actually go 12.6 to do that. And then I'm going to click here to connect it. Now, if I pull it down and I see, oh, I want that going the other, my wall facing the other direction, I'm going to hit my space bar. Take a look, watch what's happening. Make sure that angle is at full 90 degrees. And we'll just draw this here. I did a 10'5". Now, let's say, oh, I want that room to be a little bit bigger. This doesn't seem big enough. When you select a wall, if I select this wall, I'm going to click here, click on this little button. Hold on, I'm going to click on this button, sorry. This button and that button to get to the inside measurement. Well, that's clearly not what we wanted, so it's not showing 12 feet, so we're going to type in 12, enter. It's going to move this, so now it is 12 feet on the inside to inside measurement, and you can double check that. Measure between 2 references. Click, click. It gives me my 12 feet. When I hit escape, that dimension, by the way, goes away. Okay, I'm going to hit escape again. Now, when I look at this one, I see, oh dear, that is not measuring to the right thing, so let's get it there. It's only 9 feet 11. That's a pretty tiny space. Let's make that 13 feet. Okay, just by typing in 13. And you can see these walls will move, okay? Now, I'm not constructing anything specific here. I'm just actually adding some walls. Nothing important, okay? But this could possibly be our kitchen for this tiny little space, although that's an awfully big kitchen for a tiny little space such as this. But we'll assume that this is going to be some sort of space, and we'll leave that as it is. But that is how you're going to start adding walls. Okay, and we'll get more specific when we get into our own project, but this is where you find and add your walls. You're not drawing lines that you're going to then connect and turn into walls. You're actually drawing walls. Okay, Alright, so if you'll move then on to the next tutorial, I will show you how to add different doors and different windows.